Hi, I'm Andy Packham, Chief Architect for the Microsoft ecosystem at HCLTech. And I'm here today talking about something that is, super important. We've all been talking about AI, how AI is impacting our business, all of the value that people are seeing in AI, but how we're securing AI is super important, and how we're making sure that we are trusted. What we do is trusted, both by the businesses, by our customers, by the users of the AI, and by society as on a broader level. So, to kick off, introduce yourselves first, and then we'll dig into some questions I've been dying to ask. So, do you want to go?
Yep, sure. My name is Vijay, and I'm from Microsoft, and my role in Microsoft is it's like a specialist in a specific area. So I'm a data security global black belt, which means it's just specifically on data security and data governance that we focus on, mainly on the areas around compliance and in M365, and that's kind of my focus, to work with product teams, work with customers, really understand what's driving the requirements for a product, to feed that back to product teams as well, and also get that out to customers, let them know what we're doing with the product as well.
So hi, I'm Vivek, right? I take care of GRC and cybersecurity practice of HCL for Europe region. Looking forward for a good discussion on AI, especially how we can secure, plus the change in the regulations happening and how it is impacting the various aspects of AI. So looking forward for this discussion.
Yeah, thanks, Vivek. My name is Piyush, Bedi, and I'm part of the cybersecurity team at HCLTech. I look at all our financial services clients in Europe. And like all the gentlemen here, AI has been a topic of discussion for all our customers, which is quite hard. So very happy to be a part of this conversation.
I think where I'd like to start is this challenge that we've always had in security between enabling the business and protecting the business. At one hand, we've got the business wanting to forge ahead, and the other hand, there's a responsibility the CISO has to make sure that's done with the appropriate level of risk. So, Piyush, why don't you kick off? Just talk a bit about the challenges, the conversations you're having with customers, and how you're thinking about balancing those two sides of the equation.
Yeah, sure, Andy. So I think AI in general is being looked at, both as a weapon and as a shield by our customers, right? Because it's an equal tool for attackers and defenders. In fact, the attackers are kind of up in this race, as compared to the defense side, and that's where our CISOs are quite concerned, because with the scale of AI now, and the sophistication, right, the defense has to catch up. And just take an example of phishing attacks, right? I mean, the kind of sophistication with phishing now, AI, it sounds as a legit email has come to you, right? And how do you combat all that sophisticated malware which is being just built by writing a simple query on, let's say, a ChatGPT? So I think most of our customers are concerned at how do we kind of manage the speed of response now, and that's where I think the defense is adopting AI from a prevention and detection standpoint.
Yeah, that's awesome. And Vijay, I just want to pick up one thing you said in your introduction that I think is really important is AI and data. So kind of what do you can't have AI without data, and you get the value of data from AI. Mm-hmm. But from a Microsoft perspective, how are you seeing those challenges you're seeing with customers? How are you seeing those play out?
That's a really good point, because it's about data quality as well. AI is completely dependent on data, really. We all know it's dependent on massive data to give you good quality answers. And the way we should be looking at it is, use AI. I use it on a daily basis. Use it as my kind of best friend now. I ask it questions about work and other stuff as well on a regular basis, and it's a bit of trust but verify. Mm-hmm. So you need to make sure that you get a good answer, but you need to still verify as well to an extent that your answer is legitimate. And the way that you can do that really is internally, to an extent, you can help trust but verify, is to have a good data quality platform effectively. Recently, a few weeks ago, I was at this IM Tech Summit. It's like an information management tech summit. It's one of the first that they've done, actually, and it's specifically around managing of data, like lifecycle, records management. And previously, I think up until really, where GenAI has really made AI more of a consumable product, things like records management, data lifecycle management, retention, it was mainly driven by regulation. there was a need to do it, but it was based on regulation. Not the most exciting thing, really. But now, actually, and I heard this from people at the conference who are in this space. They said now they believe this is now their time to shine because they can actually be a business enabler by now making retention part of the business and like putting in policies around not having data, because bad data will pollute your AI responses. So yeah, that's what I'm seeing now is like things that have been traditionally thought of as something that just has to be done for regulation is now switching to becoming like a business enabler for GenAI. That's one thing I've definitely seen where there's an onus on people thinking actually now we can be part of the business now, enabling them to do things with the data.
So, Vivek, from the compliance perspective, on one hand, as Vijay said, it's about data, it's about the things that actually haven't changed, but it's radically. How are you seeing things change in that space? What are you seeing those customer challenges changing, or are they just the same as we've always seen?
Yeah, so with coming of AI, there are always the traditional controls which will remain, which is going to keep the base security of the AI engine. If you say the layer, like a compute and a below layer, you always have to follow the traditional controls with respect to your data security, like encryption, access management, or keeping data anonymization, data minimization. So those controls will always remain. Either it is a AI or not AI, right? Other element what is adding as a part of coming of AI is your algorithm layer, right? Yeah. Where you have your NLP and then the base. Now, how to protect that part of data is now important. Cybersecurity or the GRC or the compliance, what they have to secure, one part from HCL perspective as service sector, what we see that one part is definitely we need a products like from the Microsoft that we have a product to see that data security or data monitoring. Another part is that how your base product of NLP algorithms to be secure. And for that level of security, what we are trying to do that we are trying to map, the different set of, new regulations controls, like how you can protect the model, AI models, right? How to protect that theft to the AI model, where you can do a watermarking or some other aspects where that particular IP of organization what we have created should not be lost. So one is that part, and second comes, and the third one mainly comes as a governance, as a top layer. That one is to securing, then second part is the architecture part where you are monitoring, and then how you are governing from start of this transformation journey to end, and then regular monitoring. So governance is the top layer which has to be adopted as per AI.
So, Piyush, coming back to that, and just trying to build on that theme, like, there's so many layers there, right, that you're supposed to do. You're supposed to do everything. And yeah, that's what the CISO has to do. They only need to leave one hole somewhere.
Yes.
But, from your customers, what are you seeing as the most important priority that they're looking at?
Yeah, so I think, Andy, I think the trust factor which we just spoke about, right, is very key. That do you trust the AI model today, right? How much information should I feed to this? Am I giving him something proprietary, which is very key for me? Is that information going to get leaked when I actually use the data model today? Am I vulnerable by actually giving a lot of data to the AI models, right? I think that's the trust factor which our customers are more concerned about, because any application can be vulnerable. Hackers are out there actually just trying to extract that particular point. I think that's a key area which I've seen our customers kind of asking us questions again. And how do you test that the AI model is secure, right? And the other thing is that how do you monitor these AI models, right? I mean, they can't follow the conventional monitoring process. I mean, this is a new way of monitoring. So I think most of our customers are currently figuring out, and we are kind of helping them devise a way of looking at these particular problem statements.
Okay. So Vijay, look, Microsoft, you're doing a fantastic job, and you're making it really hard for us. The speed at which Microsoft is innovating is unbelievable, right? But again, that the same question: what's that one big thing that customers need to be thinking about when they're they look at all of these challenges, and the CEO is pushing hard? What would you recommend is the one most important thing to focus on?
I think from what I'm seeing is people want to adopt GenAI.
Yeah.
So we have different co-pilots in Microsoft. We have loads of different co-pilots. We have the M365 co-pilot, which means that people want to access all the different data across all the different 365 workloads like Exchange and SharePoint and other workloads as well. What we've seen sometimes is customers are concerned about overexposure of data, and I think that's the key. That's the key thing I'd say is it's these controls that around, protecting data, preventing overexposure. They've been around for quite some time now. It's just the drivers potentially haven't been there up until now. Now there's a stronger driver to secure that data, within your estate, to make sure that you don't have overexposure issues. And that's the key thing is start thinking more about, securing your data as a business enabler rather than just because you're doing it for security purposes or regulatory purposes. That's the key thing is that you're enabling the business by securing the data, because then you're taking away, you're de-risking that element of overexposure. So that's the one thing to really focus on, I'd say.
Okay, thanks. And Vivek, you spoke about regulations, right? But I'd like to get your perspective then about what are the regulatory bodies thinking about this? We're hearing along about governance thinking about stuff. Whether or not markets are going to become more protective or less. But I'd kind of like to get your thinking. If we talk about customers, we talked about that. Where do you see the regulations going?
Yeah. So based on the upcoming regulations, what is coming, like what is in the market, and still there are few regulations which are about to come. What the people who are afraid of basically the one aspect of biasing, that how to reduce the biasing, right? So for that, the regulators are trying to bring the more stringent control. That is one. Second is again, the controls which they're already in place, like with respect to, like Vijay said, that with respect to data security, data privacy. So it depends on that your AI system is, what is the classification of an AI system? And it depends on not only the system classification, but the type of data which is ingesting into your AI system. So that will also, both collaboratively, you have to see that what output will come, right? And accordingly, and seeing all these aspects of data, that is what the regulators were trying to, bring more controls on how you secure the data. And that is where organization has to think of. Again, going to the previous principle of data classification, bringing the more control or additional control based on the classification and the data security.
Yeah, I think there's a significant change here, isn't there? The whole role of what we do is changing from this way of protecting. You mentioned it, from protecting to enabling. So kind of, looking a little bit into the future then, if we've spoken about the challenges, how does the CISO become the hero? How do they start in an organization move from, just being seen as, security to somebody who's been seen as actually leaving, truly driving business value? So I don't know, Piyush, if you want to dig in there.
Yeah, I think, and one thing is very sure, right? I mean, AI is imminent, right? I mean, there's no going. This is the next revolution. So everybody needs to think of ways. I think the practical things where the CISO is really demonstrating or are kind of experimenting with these pilots is they're able to kind of bridge the talent gap now, because a lot of talent which was scarce and from a junior analyst standpoint, a lot of that work AI is able to do very, very efficiently now. So, with a smaller workforce, less trained workforce, they're able to achieve more using AI. I mean, there are enough examples with Microsoft Copilot how people are doing it. I think that's one clear value which CISOs are demonstrating now, that we can actually get this work done. So I think that's one point from my side.
Yeah.
I think another one is, from what I'm seeing is, so for instance, within Microsoft, we have the E5 platform, okay? And I won't talk about product more than that effectively, but within that, there's a huge amount of capability. And that includes data security and data governance capability. But quite often, these areas, they're not, when I speak to customers and I speak to people in the office of the CISO, data security, data governance is not necessarily areas driven by the office of the CISO. And when I've been to, this year, Microsoft, we've gone to other conferences which are not necessarily just security, but they're governance, risk, these summits around records management, because we're trying to get in front of the people to let them know, at least let them know, you've got these capabilities already within your existing, you've already paid for this stuff, you've got it already. you can use it. So that's, I think, some empowerment. So if CISOs to think about how they can utilize the existing capabilities and empower other teams to be able to help with security of that data, the data governance, that's maybe another area that they can consider as well.
Okay, that's interesting. And then Vivek, that's the same thing from the regulatory.
Mm-hmm.
We often see the regulations as the ones that hold us back. How do we start changing that that story to say actually this is what builds trust, and in building the trust with society or with our customers, that's a positive. So how do you see that? How do you see how the regulations need to change to become more enabling of what we do?
And what I say, in other words, look, regulations are important, especially for a type of sectors. There are two types of organizations normally. One which starts proactively, like the organizations which start working on change, bringing the change in the culture, framework, start adopting proactively. There are some organizations who start adopting the technology, but they don't want to adopt the controls or the security. They wait for there is some implications come from the regulator, and then they will do some changes. So that is where the regulatory requirement are important. If you see the changes happen, especially in Europe, UK, we see a lot of regulations change from last couple of years. Like if the sector, we see NIS2, DORA, a lot of new regulation came. But when we studied these regulations, these are not new as a regulations. What they did that these are already the existing controls which every organization has. What they said that they want to just change a little bit so that you can bring a harmonizations between the different organizations.
Yeah.
With AI also the same thing is going to happen. They just want to add the additional layer that how to secure your the base layer and what all the changes you have to bring as a part of framework, as a part of governance, trainings, assessments, risk, and all those things. So that is what the changes need to bring. But the thing is, once regulation comes, it's always a hue and cry. I can tell you that how to comply. But when we start studying that, okay, let's see how to comply, it's quite easy. It's just a mapping of regulations toward the control, and then let's go for it.
Yeah, I think that's really important. And then to wrap up, then we're at this sort of juncture, this pivot point. But there's a lot of I think there's a lot of optimism, and there's a lot that we can very quickly move forward. You're right. If you look at the policies, and you use those policies as guides rather than as hindrance, that's a huge accelerator. The Microsoft platform. You're right. It's all there today. We need to see how we do that and we implement that responsibly and without bias.
Yeah.
But we don't need to worry about the underlying platform. I think where we do need to worry, and I think it is the right thing to do, is thinking about the quality of data, how we look after our customers' data. Data has now become Piyush, you mentioned this, how this data is now.
Yeah.
Everything is around data. Last week I had a conversation, and it was kind of the opposite. It was about data, and funnily enough, it all ends up talking about security as well.
Yeah.
So I think security. The data governance and the data architecture and the security are now coming together one. So look, thank you. I think this has been a fantastic conversation. Really appreciate all of your time. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Andy.